Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of Tech. Today, we are going to talk about equity and equity that lasts and how we can use technology to empower ourselves to get to that space. Is not just a regular tech, it's Tech in February, which means happy Black History Month to you all. I am delighted to be able to talk about this topic with someone that I encountered a couple of years ago on actually on Instagram. And as a first reaction when I listened to him speak was, where have you been? Why have I not come across you before? Especially because this guest is someone that works at Microsoft, who I work with as a client for a long time. His name is Darrell Booker, and he is, in his own words, the techie's favorite techie. But more importantly for me, is someone that really works at the intersection of technology, social impact, and everything that is culture. So all things culture. He is a speaker, an expert in technology, of course, and a corporate affairs specialist at Microsoft. And with no further ado, help me welcome Darrell to our conversation.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Love the introduction. I always get kind of teary eyed a little bit when people say, I heard you speak and what you said, and sometimes it's just me talking, and it's really great to know that words are having an impact.
Oh, absolutely. And, I pinged you a couple of days ago just looking at some of the pictures that you posted. And just looking at the picture, I could feel your aura and your excitement and the passion that you have in making a difference for the communities that you serve in that way. And before I get started with the more kind of poignant questions on this topic of digital equity, I want to get our audience a bit more familiar with you and ask you, obviously you've been in love with tech for a long time, your passion from back in, when you were a teenagers and started to experiment with coding. But I'm curious over your career journey, if there was like a specific moment or experience that really helped you shape your perspective around technology and the role that technology plays in building equity and financial in an economic independence as well for the communities that you work with.
Absolutely. I remember the time period like it was yesterday. I remember vividly some of the days, and this was I had a long stint in the automotive industry, serving as a CIO. Had a team focused on building some tech solutions that basically facilitate a lot of things that happen on the back end when we think of parts, vehicle inspections, and things of that sort. And I started going home every day with a headache. And and the reason I was going home every day with a headache was I felt like my entire purpose was just to make the company money.
Mm.
And I'm very prideful of my craft. So whether it's me building, coding, or a team that I lead, my mantra is build for the future, not the now. And I was getting persuaded, by the leaders, and I've always been able to sit on both sides. I can sit in the cubicles with the geeks. I can go in the boardroom with the execs. So, I'm in these rooms with them, and it's kind of like, Drell, can you build this? Can you code this? Can you do this? Can you have it by this date? Because it's going to make us $20 more apart. And I'm like, yeah, I could, but I would always tell them the ramifications of what you're asking me to do. And I'm like, we need to think further. There's a better way that we can do this. And I always got met with, well, let's do what's going to make more money. And
What a surprise.
what a surprise, right? And that was also the time of my life where I felt I had reached the ceiling in the city where I grew up in, Richmond, Virginia, in terms of, I've been working full time in tech since 18. And it had got to the point to where, I worked in different industries. I've done, consulting to, working full time, and kind of climbed the ladder even from a salary standpoint. And, I wasn't being fulfilled. I wasn't being challenged. And simultaneously, on one of those kind of headache days, I ended up running into a young man, who was the CEO of a startup nonprofit. And he said, "Hey, I'm looking for someone to lead a team for me." And that was the moment that it clicked in my head. Oh my God, all of this tech knowledge that I've been having for years can actually be applied to something good, impactful work. It doesn't have to be, helping the rich get richer. And that was the moment for me.
That's awesome. And I'm a fan of something that the CEO of Cisco said a long time ago, which is doing good and doing well is not mutually exclusive when you're running a business. And I think a lot of people are forgetting this. But I'm getting ahead of myself because I have a question around this for you, especially when it pertains to DEI and diversity in particular. So when you're thinking about digital equity, I'm curious what you see right now as the most pressing challenges that Black communities are facing when it comes to both access and then benefiting from the technology itself.
Um, the biggest issue, and you said the word, is really just the access and the exposure and understanding what's out there, not only just even from a technology standpoint, but even from a career pathway. There are too many young people that know no more than the 4 block radius where they live. And when you think about their daily life and who they're seeing, those are the only people that they are aspiring to be. So, the number one thing that we have to do is just, expose at a very early young age, not only these career pathways, but then also, the technology. And, when I think about what can be improved from a technology standpoint, is the focus on making sure that everyone is getting their hands or getting access to this at the same time. When we think of wanting to make sure that we are, live in a world where there is equity, but even if we think of businesses and how they're actually building and designing things for a large consumer base, what are we doing to make sure that we are actually reaching out to everyone to even understand their need, get things in their hand? Because at the end of the day, this is also your future pipeline of talent. So
Absolutely.
so we need to make sure that we are, building enough of a robust talent pool by reaching to every community, every diverse community there is, and making sure that everybody, you know, has the basic necessities. Just like we think of now, lights, water is basic necessity. Internet should be like that. Access to basic digital literacy. All of these should be basic necessities.
Yeah, and that was one of the two things that you said that really hit home for me. One is that I did a study about 3 years ago, and what you're saying about young people that don't necessarily see an opportunity in tech because they're not exposed to it. If you're looking at the career path that a lot of Black and brown kids look at when they're entering college, is more looking at scholarships in sports versus pursuing, because that's how historically has been. That's what the parents know. That's where they push them during high school, right?
Yes.
Instead, between go and play football and get into the robotics class in the afternoon, you go play football. And that is one thing that needs to change. And the other thing that you are saying as well, as far as the access during COVID, a lot of communities were given devices and access to the tech, but they couldn't afford, or they were not in an area where they had internet. And
Right.
so but a lot of those computers were not even turned on.
And not even that. It's actually a three-prong approach. And very rarely, especially doing then, was I seeing someone attack all three. You mentioned the device, you mentioned the internet, but then the skilling.
The skills,
You
absolutely.
have to have, if you miss one of those, then you have nothing. So
Yes.
you're exactly right.
So when you're looking at your work in particular, from a kind of helping nonprofit
Mhm.
address and serving Black community, is there, you know, a couple of success stories that come to mind when you're looking at creating something that is sustainable? Because a lot of times, I think tech has this thing about going in and trying and put a band-aid on something and say, go, let's tick a box. We gave devices, or, we gave free connection for a year, but that's not sustainable or scalable.
Right, right. No, you're exactly right. And again, back to my mantra, build for the future, not the now. When you look at Black-led nonprofits, they receive unrestricted funds at a 76% smaller rate than their white counterparts. So for those that are listening, what does that really mean? How significant is that? That is when someone gives you money and say, hey, do anything you want with it, versus, hey, you can only use it for book bags or meals, etc. So that unrestricted funds is kind of the holy grail for a nonprofit to, get their operations in order, get staff, processes, rent for building, whatever it may be. So with so many nonprofits just having a lack of funding, what often is happening is they're doing a lot of um, feel good work, and they're not doing it efficiently. They do not
Mm.
have their house in order. So for me, one of the things that I really wanted to focus on was, hey, how do we digitally mature these nonprofits? Because of the power of technology, which is the reason you have this podcast, which is the reason why we're talking. We know what technology can do. And my thing is, how do we help these nonprofits, these community-based organizations, use technology no different than the large nonprofits, but no different than enterprise companies. And if at the end of the day, if they're using technology in that manner, we know it will have an impact on their mission. We don't
Yeah.
even have to think about what it is. We know they will be able to work faster, more collaboratively, more efficient, etc. So that is, one of the focuses. And, even when we look at that, I've had nonprofits reach out, Selena Burke Foundation in Chicago, and even say, hey, Darrell, through the program and the use of the free tools that you've given us to operate our nonprofit, we freed up budget to now we can give scholarship to kids. That is, life changing. When I look at an organization such as Bronx Connect out of New York, who is focused on alternatives to youth detention and youth incarceration, they're trying to manage these vulnerable youth that are coming into their programs, court ordered, that they're supposed to help, and tracking everything on paper. And,
Mm.
how can we truly, really move the needle and make sure that we have really accurate things when we're, tracking progress of young people, putting them in these programs without using technology. So building them a case management system not only allowed them to be more efficient, but guess what? They was able to open Philly Connect. Why? Because now they can open up in other locations with less staff and less some of the things that were hindering them before because of the use of technology. So I got examples for days, but those were just a couple that really come to mind when I really look at how we can, leverage technology for long-term meaningful impact.
It is actually a great point about talking about how technology can impact the nonprofit versus the community, because helping the nonprofit to be more modern in the way that they run, that helps the community in a way that is going to be there forever, right? If you treat them more like a successful business from an operational standpoint.
That's it. And it's a, to me, it's a one to many type of, methodology. some people may think, hey, we as Microsoft, we have enough money and resources that we can hand everybody in the community, here's your success pack, courtesy of Microsoft, kind of
Yeah.
like a stimulus check. Um, if we did or could, it would be very watered down because we would have to give it to so many people. But kind of like a lot of people who may not know what they did with their stimulus check, right? You would be in the same situation. So instead, how do we put the power of data and technology behind those organizations that's been there for decades or hundreds of years and will continue to be? Let's put it in them. And for every one nonprofit we support in the community, that is dozens, hundreds, if not thousands, that will have an impact of that work.
And that is critical for two reasons, in my opinion. One is what you're saying, they have been there and they will be. So
Yeah.
this is not like take a box. So I've done good this year and I'm going to move on to something else, which is sometimes what tech does.
Yes.
These organizations are embedded in the community, understand what the community need is. And so they're best at serving that community with the power that they are given.
Absolutely.
So yeah, 100%. So here we go to that difficult part of the conversation, because I've been struggling, I have to say, since the beginning of the year to talk about this in a way that doesn't just make me have smoke coming out my ears and swear words coming out my mouth. So DEI.
Yes.
And the war on DEI.
Yes.
I feel, because I've been doing this for a little bit now of time, that first of all, the ignorant argument around DEI is a compromise. A DEI hire is not a skill worker,
right.
talent, whatever.
Right.
This has been in people's mind for a long time. It's
right.
just that now everybody feels empowered by the current administration to say so out loud.
Right.
There's different reasons why this is so ignorant, but the part that to me is fascinating is the point that you were making earlier about how diversity is actually good for business. And I don't know if you are tired as I am to repeat this, but I will continue even if I'm tired to explain it to people. And it's very simple, is if you are diverse, you can serve a more diverse base of customers. You have a diverse way of thinking. You are going to end up making more money. And I think until we drive that, given that America is based on money, until we drive that point home, we always going to be struggling.
Nice. And
I'm going to let you take it away now.
I'll say, even on that last point that you just mentioned, I guarantee you every CFO at every company agrees with the statement you just made and what I made, because they get that. They understand, okay, when we are building said product or we have said store or whatever the case may be, they understand they need as many different consumers as possible. So, I don't even know if I've ever heard a CFO come out and say,
Oh, we
anything.
don't want those.
Yeah. I don't think they're saying that. I'll also say, for me, and if you just let me go back just a little bit, not that I'm just any of this psychic or this great person, but everything that we're experiencing right now, I predicted it. Like, I not to predicted it, I can line up some people that said, Darrell, you said this then. Yes, I did. When I think of the surge of DEI, honestly, when we kind of look at 2020, we had the murder of George Floyd, we had COVID, we had all these things that was happening. And when we saw a lot of these initiatives popping up out of nowhere from people that, wasn't on their radar, they didn't have these different programs, they didn't have these different groups or whatever. For me, I always said from the very beginning, this is a moment in time.
Yeah.
This is a moment in time. And with that particular moment in time, what type of needle can we move? But at the end of the day, the work still needs to happen. is still happening by a lot of these community-based organizations. The nature of a nonprofit is DEI. Like,
Hmm.
I want you to think of every nonprofit that's ever been focused on education, helping homeless, helping those with a special need, all of those things. It is about how can we provide help to those that, need it, that are left behind, that, are for whatever reason are not on the same equal field as,
Hmm.
other people. You know, cities all day long approve, these housing complexes and things, and they say you have to have a certain number of units that are affordable housing. You follow I'm getting at? Like, these
Yeah.
type of things have been going on forever, and it will continue to go on forever. In my opinion, just that concept of us, having an equal playing field, embracing everyone from all cultures, backgrounds, whoever you are, kind of turned more into solely a race thing, followed a
Yes.
little bit
A
by
hundred
gender.
percent.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And again, we forget DEI includes, how are we making sure someone who is hearing impaired gets a job? How is someone who is, blind is for, like, all of those things are still DEI. So, my thoughts and where I am right now is there are, you know, true people that are passionate about the work. There are true organizations that are passionate about the work. They will continue the work. Now, will, names of some things change, and just maybe doing things a little bit quietly, I think that's what we will see. But I don't necessarily buy into that DEI is necessarily dead. It may be just dead from those who were checking a box. And now that the wind is blown in a different direction, they're finding the next box to check.
I am with you 100%. I think that everybody that was doing DEI in a performative sense now doesn't feel the need to, because they're not going to be judged, or they think they're not going to be judged. I think that especially B2C, consumers are still, tell Target.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes, yes, yes.
but I agree with you. I mean, my advice to my customers is exactly that. It's like what matters is the work that you're doing, and if by talking about it differently or not being as vocal takes the target off your back so that you can continue to make a difference, so be it.
And I'll even say that, like, maybe about even a year and a half ago, when I talk about my work, and a lot of times depending upon the setting, I had to change a little bit of my verbiage. I had to place the word underserved instead of the word black. And that didn't mean my work was any different. I was
Yep.
just more conscious of, okay, I see the audience. We're now 2 years, 2 to 3 years, or 3 to 4 at that point, removed from 2020. I understand that there may some people that may have a black fatigue. You follow me?
Yeah.
Okay, I may can change the language a little bit, but no one's going to argue that the work still, is needed and needs to happen. So.
100%. And even what you're saying about, who benefits from DEI is absolutely true, that people just think about race and they don't think about, because at the end of the day, the group that benefited the most is white women, right?
There you go. There you go.
So,
There you go.
but is also, yes, the hearing impaired, or having, lactating rooms in an office if you just have a newborn. It's all these things that we don't think about as
Yeah.
DEI.
Yeah. Or just, embracing people who, their families come from another country and now they're there. And it's just cultural difference. Though all of these things are what DEI is. And it's sad that it's under attack. But I feel like we're a very, very strong nation. And like I said, it just cannot undercut just the need and the work that's been happening that people know will continue.
100%. And I think that given especially what is happening to some of the nonprofit work, your work is going to be even more critical going forward. And the public sector contribution to those nonprofit is going to have to step up.
Yeah, it has to step up, and that's, because we're in a little bit of a, uncertain time. When we think about what we know we control on a daily basis. And again, I'm thinking what's happening at my neighborhood level. And again, we need to just keep moving along. And sometimes we have to have these blinders on and block out Washington and what's happening. You know what I mean? Sometimes we just have to do it and just say, hey, let's keep doing what we're doing.
Just stay focused.
Yes, stay focused. We know what's best for our community and who we're supporting. Let's continue to do it, because at the end of the day, 3 years and 11 months from now, we may be back in a totally different situation. So,
And the need is still going to be there.
still be there. Still be there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you've been very vocal about the importance of digital skills training and in underserved communities. What is your vision for really true digital literacy? And I think as we talk about that, we have to talk about AI
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
and the role that AI can play in helping closing that gap, but
Right.
also the threat that AI poses in widening that gap even more.
Yeah. So when we think about, making sure that everybody has that digital literacy is on that playing field, we all know college is too late, high school is too late. We need to be getting to them in middle school. I say all the time, I'll take the really smart elementary school kids as well, because seriously, because the uh, job market is much, much more competitive now, and
Yeah.
and especially in terms of, there was a time you go to college, you get a piece of paper, you're a shoo-in to get your career. um, Maybe unpopular opinion, I will say it. Those, depending on what field you go in, those degrees are becoming, I won't use the word useless, but they're becoming less and less important.
I'm totally with you.
It's
Yep.
about demonstrated skills
Skills.
and experience also. So for me, especially when I meet young people and they're going into anything that may be tech related, it is like, look, if you have that laptop and that internet, you need to put yourself in a position that you're learning as much as you can now. You won't get it all from your school. We know what the issues are, especially when we look at K through 12, and one school in one part of town is better than the other. Like, we know that there's issues there. So if we think about how we are making sure that we can get these, opportunities to skill in front of kids at an early age, they're going to be much, much more prepared for when
Yep.
it's time to graduate and into the workforce. So for me, it's just making sure that they get that exposure. And then even when we think about, you know, where someone is going. And at the end of the day, whether you're going to start your career or become, say, an entrepreneur, and we have so many more entrepreneurs than we did before, understanding, how technology is going to power your company is important. And there's more businesses out there that are more tech companies than they think. You follow me?
Yeah.
If you are drop shipping something from somewhere to somewhere else and it's ran by a website, newsflash, you're really a
You're
tech
a
company.
tech.
You're not building nothing. You're not storing it. You're a tech company. So the sooner you learn how you can have automation, how you can have interoperability between your systems, like all these type of things, you're going to be able to run your business like a well-oiled machine. So that's really my goal for people, especially young people, to just get on the train really well. And in terms of AI. AI is just like every other tech revolution. It changes the game. One thing that it also does, again, is it really helps again to level that playing field. So when I think about how people need to learn AI just from how to use it. I'm not even talking about being trained in it as if you're an AI engineer. Just learn how to use it, so that you can now, whether you're running a business or a person, you can quickly get tasks done. Like, we all understand that sometimes there's very, things that we need to do that just take a lot of time, or you have to hire someone. Okay, figure out how AI can write those things for you. Figure out how AI can create a social calendar or help you with your budget, or write a job description. Like, these are the things that people really need to learn how to do. And the argument that I hear a lot about, AI displacing people from jobs.
Yeah.
Um, so yes, it does, but not really. There's a bigger picture. And I say that to say, yes, AI may replace a low skill job,
Yes.
but two things. For every time AI is replacing a low skill job, that is more humans on the other side that's building the AI that has to be employed to continue to replace those low skill jobs. So that's my one thought there. For every time AI enters a new realm and people are now using AI for this, that is spawning more jobs to continue that innovation. That's one. The second thing is, why is it wrong for people to not aspire to have a higher paid, higher skill job? Like, that's the mindset that
Yeah.
we need to have. Some people use the cashier example, and it's like, okay, to me, back to what I said, young people in their 4 block radius need to stop aspiring to be a cashier at a local grocery store. So if they see that replaced by machines, guess what? Now their mind is going to be thinking of something bigger and better to be. So we got to just look at it. There's a lot of people that was in the landline phone industry that was mad when cell phones came out. But hey, that's technology. That's the nature of it. And you just gotta get on board with it. You can't fight it.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I do think that AI offers the opportunity to gain skills that will help you progress in your career faster than you haven't done before. Um, and also less dependent on your organization to help you do that, right?
Right.
You can do it on your own. And I also like, I'll play back to my 17-year-old, what you said earlier about this is the time that you need to learn those skills. And it's not just about the better school versus the worst school. We're still, we moved from Cali to Atlanta, and that's how we picked our house,
Right.
right,
Right.
close to the best high school. Tell you what, after a year my kid dropped out of that high school because the environment was toxic.
Mm,
So yes, you get the good grades and the opportunity to get into college if your mental health is not impacted. But
absolutely.
more than that, I think it's not just about good and bad school. It's about having teachers that actually give you the opportunity and see your full potential. That doesn't always happen with a brown or black kid.
Right.
And so going off and creating your own path and learning in your own way, I think is so powerful. And AI would definitely help with that.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's this is the age of self learning. I hear YouTube University, TikTok. So many people. I don't know about you, but I was blown away one day. I was around some kind of young person, and they went to search for something, and they did not pull out their phone and go to Google. They went to TikTok, and that was how they was learning and consuming. So for me, even when we think about social media and the roles that they play, they're playing obviously, honestly, a vital role in spreading the knowledge. My feed oftentimes is telling me about a new AI tool that does this, that does that, and we really just have to be very inquisitive. You know what I mean? We also have to get across the barrier. Oh my God, that tool is $5 a month. What? That $5 a month tool is going to save you hours and hours and hours. You have to invest in yourself to be able to move ahead in this society.
100%. We are almost at time, and I want to end on Black History Month.
Yes.
And from a personal perspective, it means different things to different people, and I'm curious what it means to you and how that has evolved throughout your career in tech and the work that you do.
Can I be honest and vulnerable?
Yes, is a safe space.
It means nothing to me. And the reason I say it means nothing to me, because as a black man, the first thing that, you may hear from some of us is, okay, why do we need a special month anyway for people to think about us? You've heard it's the shortest month of the year. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Um, and, for me, the learning of the great people in Black history that have, from inventors and things of that sort. As a Black person, I already know these things. So a lot of this is for education for everyone else. And they may get educated, but my question is, it does not end up helping me come March 1st. You know, it
Yeah.
doesn't. And, and I guess I'm even more increasingly frustrated because, again, if we look at 2020, February of, 2021 was probably the most, as the kids say, lit Black History Month ever. You know what I mean? Everybody,
Yeah.
Black History Month, Black History Month. Let's write these articles. Let's get these people. Let's do all these things. And now it's totally different, so
Yeah.
it doesn't seem genuine. So for me, it's kind of like, okay, it is what it is, but you know it doesn't really do anything for me. And that's just, as a person, it's a time, it's a month, it comes and goes, and then it's like I said, nothing is really different. So
Well, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, as you were talking, I was thinking about Valentine's Day, and I was like, it looks like it is the only day that somebody can tell me that they love me.
exactly, same thing. Yeah, it's like, why do we have to have these artificial moments? And it's tough. It's more, in my opinion, why can't this just be something that's really ingrained permanently? Also, you know, just as we look at the racial reckoning that's been happening, if someone or entity says, "Hey, we're going to stand up something because we feel like it's the right thing to do," then just make it permanent. Make
Yeah,
that part of your everyday, and we just would be a better society. And I'm not even talking. We could take that same mentality for every race,
everything. Yeah,
ethnicity,
next
everything.
month is my month.
Yeah,
It's
women. Yeah,
women's month.
exactly. It's the same thing across everything. So.
Yeah, I agree with you. And again, looking at tech, I've been seeing, some of the brands coming out and saying, "Oh, we're lifting the voices," and they go and find the 4 Black employees that they have, and
Yes,
they put them up there, and it's like, okay,
yes,
but your next event, everybody is a white middle-aged man,
right,
and
right,
where is that diversity? Where are those voices? And how much are you empowering those voices to actually make a difference to the product that you design, to
exactly.
the impact that you have? So I hear you, and I appreciate you sharing that.
Well, thank you.
I always say the conversation doesn't have to end here, especially with you, because you're so present out there. Where can people find you and continue to follow your great work?
Yes, please find me. I'm on all social media at Darrell Booker.
Yes, you are.
Darrellbooker, LinkedIn, Instagram, all of the above. And I've just started Substacking. So yes, please check that out. Subscribe to my Substack. Is called Not Your Typical Geek, because I'm
Oh,
not your
nice.
typical geek. So
Thank you. I'm going to go and subscribe right now.
thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. I know that you travel a ton and you're super busy. So I'm really, really appreciative of your time today.
No, I appreciate you having me. This was amazing. Would love to come back anytime and talk about it again. Thank
Absolutely.
you so much.
Thank you, Darrell. Take care.
Bye bye.